The third example I want to tell you about concerns a second concept of Darwin, that is the tree of life. The tree of life Darwin first drew in his notebook of 1837. It's also in a modified form in the 1859 version of The Origin of Species. And the tree of life implies that all living organisms, including humans, are related by descent. Therefore, and this is the important point to be made here, the study of simpler model organisms can help greatly to understand how we ourselves work both in health and disease. Several examples of this. There is innate immunity. And innate immunity, the molecular basis of it, was discovered in the fly, the fruit fly, so-called toll receptors, which are important for that. Several years later, it was found exactly the same type of molecules were important in human innate immunity. But finding it in flies opened up that field. The homeobox genes, also discovered in flies, are crucial for vertebrate and human development, particularly body segmentation. But the example, which is my favourite because I worked on it myself, was the control of cell reproduction, which I worked on in yeast, which is barely an organism that you would think was an organism. It's so lowly in the living kingdom. But discovering the gene in yeast that controls cell division, and discovering mutants in that gene, which mean that those yeast cells couldn't divide, gave a way of finding the same gene in humans, simply by taking a human library, sprinkling the genes of the human library onto the yeast cells, and if there was an equivalent in humans of that yeast gene, then if a yeast cell took up that human gene, it could then grow and divide. I want to just emphasize the extraordinary fact, what this means. It means yeast and humans having diverged over perhaps 1.5 billion years ago, one could take the gene from humans, put it into yeast, even in working in such a complicated phenomena as cell division, and it would work perfectly. This is an extraordinary example of the unity of life. And it is the use of these model organisms in biomedicine that helps greatly now. Work on the worm, on the fly, work even on bananas, work on yeast, on the mouse, helps us understand humans and how humans work. John Sulston, who you'll be hearing about later, who pioneered the sequencing of worm and then of humans, has shown that a very high percentage of genes are common between these different organisms, well over 50%. I want to finish with one final point. Given that all the biosphere is related, as Darwin argued, with the tree of life, then the rest of the living world are our cousins, so to speak. And I think one of the better arguments for us taking care of the rest of the biosphere is, and acting as good stewards, is that really we're only looking after our own family. So I really endorse that. Thank you very much.